Hi everyone, this is Arcadius and welcome back to Naval. Today we will start going over the newest tech tree that has been added to the game, and that is the British Heavy Cruiser line. Now this line is actually really fun. We've already gone over a couple cruisers that have come out since the cruiser started coming out. We've gone over Exeter, which was a event ship, which is a really good ship. And honestly, if you don't have her, you did miss out because this is actually a really good ship. And we've also gone over Warrior so far. It's a nice little prism ship that has large caliber guns, a ton of torpedoes, decent secondaries AA, and honestly, she's just a really fun ship. But those two are not part of the tech tree line. For those, we have everything starting from Hawkins, which is the one we're going to be going over today. It has a few little single mounted guns. Not the best introduction to this tier, honestly. This ship is more focused on armor piercing and good positioning versus anything else. She even lacks torpedoes, which is something we see in the rest of the line, except this ship, which the real ship actually did have torpedoes, so I'm not sure why she doesn't have them, but that's just what we have in game. We'll go over more of her stats in a minute as we go over her directly, but we go from Hawkins to County class, which is also a really good ship. On the armor side, it's a little bit weaker, but it does get quite a few guns that can be quite deadly. After County, we go to Surrey, which is more or less an improved County class. You have the same number of armaments, you get a few more secondaries, you still have your torpedoes, and this is a really fun ship. This is one of my favorite British heavy cruisers in the game. After that, we go to Albemarle, which is one of the proposed designs for a British heavy cruiser. It was never actually built, but it was designed, I guess you could say. We start to see triple gun turrets here, and we have a new kind of hull form where it ends in a flat stern, similar to like Mino or Neptune. Not terribly a fan of the ship, but that's not because she's weak, it's just because she's overly average. And then we start getting into some of the really pretty looking ships. At tier 9, we have Oxford, or I've renamed her as Drake. And we have 12 8-inch guns at tier 9, which is the most as of right now. Once the American cruiser Vallejo comes out, here it is, we will now have 2 cruisers at tier 9 that will have 12 8-inch guns and 4 triple turrets, but as of right now, Drake is the only one. So she's kind of special right now. Really fun ship there as well. And then lastly, we end with Duke of Edinburgh, or as I've renamed her, Admiral. We get quad turrets with 234mm guns. Yep, yes we do. This ship is by far one of the strongest cruisers and most fun cruisers to play in this entire game. Now, overall, not counting Hawkins, counting all the way through Admiral, you're going to want to use high explosive. It's actually really strong, believe it or not. It's kind of like the HE firepower of an American light cruiser with the rates of a heavy cruiser. It's not going to be as fast as light cruiser, obviously, but you just get so much high explosive damage and so many fires, it's ridiculous. And they actually increase the fire chance of some of the heavy cruisers as well. For specifically Admiral, I've been playing her a lot recently, and there's some salvos where I can get almost 10,000 damage on battleships if I aim for the superstructure, and like 2 to 3 fires in just one salvo. You just shoot from one ship to the other, and just go set fire, another one set fire, another one set fire, and you just keep going back and forth, and your fire damage equals your main gun damage most of the time. So even though they have large caliber shells, I do find that high explosive is quite useful on these ships. So not to say armor piercing is bad, it's not as good as I would expect it. I did mention something like this when I did my review on Warrior. I mean, 234s, that's about a 9.4-inch gun. You'd expect some pretty good armor piercing damage. Now, it's not terrible. If you get a broadside and cruiser and you have armor piercing loaded, you can pretty much blow it out of the water without an issue. But 9 times out of 10, I'm still just going to use armor or high explosive and just aim for the superstructure and just do damage that way. Um, like I said, that's for county and higher. For Hawkins, it is a different story. Honestly, this is the my least favorite cruiser. She's just yeah, she's not fun. So let's just go over her directly. So we're gonna start off with 29,900 health, 9% torpedo damage resistance. Mind you, the most similar cruiser she's going to be going up against as a Tier 5 matchmaking heavy cruiser is Firataka and Exeter. Now, Firataka was already borderline overpowered at this tier. She can take on any kind of ship except carriers for the most part. She had good armor, good guns. She even had torpedoes that had forward facing arcs, which is unusual for a Japanese heavy cruiser. She had a fighter. Um, there was literally nothing wrong with her. I could play her all day and have fun. Then Hawkins came out, and I thought she might be similar because she has large caliber guns as well. She has 7.5-inch guns or 190 mils. We'll go over those in a minute, but we have 1, 2, 3, 4, since there's 2 on the broadside there, 5, 6 guns, which is the same number as Furutaka. And so I thought they might be a little bit similar. Now, that's pretty much where the similarities end. And once Exeter came out, that was just a completely different kind of setup for a British heavy cruiser, and it's so much better than Hawkins as well. You have the same number of guns on a broadside, 6 total, 8-inch guns. You have torpedoes, you have speed, you have okay secondaries, you have really good AA, you even have a fighter. There's just everything that Hawkins was lacking. And so, yes, she is an event ship, so if you don't already have her, you probably won't be able to get her again. But for those who do have her, you can easily tell that this ship is a lot better than Hawkins. Now, that's not to say Hawkins is all garbage. She does have her points, so let's finish going over the ship first, and then I'll tell you what I think her playstyle should be. So we went over the ship itself. Armor-wise, you have 9 to 76 millimeters of armor. Your belt is, well, 76 millimeters of armor, which is about 3 inches. The best thing you want to do about this ship in terms of armor is not be shot at all. Most of the time, if you get hit, it's going to be a Citadel. I don't think I've had a game where if I got shot, I didn't get Citadel or took a huge chunk of damage. So, yeah, this ship is just like a tin can. It's a destroyer with a Citadel, pretty much, and it's not even that. Alright, so going back, guns. 190mm guns, 4.3 rounds a minute, 32nd degree turn time. You can see the stats here. Really good shell velocity, 844 meters per second. These are really, really fast shells. And one thing about this ship that sticks out is her armor piercing capability. She might only have 4,900 damage per shell, but it actually adds up, and she can slap battleships for about 10k plus in some valleys, and even at range, because you have that good shell velocity, so you can stay out of range, slap the battleships, and just kind of tickle them to death. Your high explosive is actually quite disappointing. Yes, it can do damage, don't get me wrong, but I would expect a lot more fires than what I'm seeing, and so I just tend to stick with armor piercing. We have a main gun range of 14.1 kilometers, and we have a secondary range of 4.5 kilometers. Do have a few secondaries here. We have 2 here, and we have 2 here. I think they are 3-inch guns. I don't really remember. They're not as bad as the light cruiser secondary weaponry for the British cruisers. Specifically looking at like Belfast and ships like that, where you can watch the shells crawl across the sky. But, I mean, it's still just secondary guns. You're not going to do much against anything. They might do a little bit of damage on destroyers, but if you're that close to a destroyer, you probably did something wrong. The ship itself is not very fast. I say that with a grain of salt, because she does go 30 knots, but when compared to other ships at this tier, like Firataka goes over 35 knots, I think. Even Exeter goes 32 or 33. So she's not terribly slow, and you will still outrun battleships for the most part. I mean, there is Congo, so she can at least hunt you down. But yeah, it does feel very sluggish in my hands, even with all the speed buffs I'll have applied. So I'm not too much of a fan in terms of the speed. AA defense is pretty much non-existent. You have some but it's not really that good. And then torpedoes. Well, you don't have any, which is unusual because you're the only cruiser at this tier that does not have torpedoes. And yes, it really shows. You'll be like next to a battleship and you're like, oh, okay, cool. Let me just torpedo it and move on. And then you realize, oh no, I don't have torpedoes and I have like spongy armor. So here I am, 2 minutes into the game, and I'm pretty much dead already. So yeah, you always have to remember that you are not a close quarters cruiser. You always have to stay at range to the best of your ability. That being said, she does come with some gimmicks, and this is also true for the entire line of British heavy cruisers. We get a smokescreen. That, like I said, goes for Hawkins all the way up to Admiral. So having large caliber guns plus a smokescreen plus ships, well, county and higher that have a seaplane, you can sit in your smokescreen, have your fighter provide you some kind of spotting capability, and you have large caliber guns that can do a ton of damage. And even torpedoes. The torpedo angles on these heavy cruisers are amazingly good. We'll start seeing those when we go over county next time, but I can't really show you because Hawkins doesn't have any. But having the combo of large caliber guns plus a smokescreen can be pretty effective as well. The British light cruisers also have smokescreens, but they're also only equipped with 6-inch guns, which do have limited capability. But when it comes to 7.5, 8-inch, or even 9.4-inch guns, it's a lot stronger, let me tell you. All right, so let's toss Hawkins into a game and see what we can do. All right, let's see what kind of game we're tossed in today. We have 4 battleships, 2 cruisers, and a destroyer. So no carrier, which is fine with me, because we are not really equipped to deal with any kind of carrier threat. So I do have health buffs and speed buffs applied, so do keep that in mind. This is not the original ship. I also have crew skills applied. Let's see here. What kind of ships we have in it? Imperatriz de Maria, one of those Russian battleships. We have Congo, 2 Britannias, Hawkins, Krasny Kavkaz, and a Gnevkin. So it looks like the Russians are out in force today. Considering we do have really good range, I think it's one of the top farthest ranges at this tier for a cruiser. We can automatically start slapping ships from, well, spawn pretty much. That being said, since they're all angled, we do have to wait until they give us a little bit better, well, shot. And it looks like that Britannia is going to give us a decent broadside to shoot at. So we just gotta wait here. You can see the good shell velocity is quite effective, though the accuracy does leave something to be desired, I would say right now. Alright, well, let me show you what high explosive can do. Maybe it has changed. I know that there were some changes to the armor, or the high explosive shells on the British cruisers. I don't know if Hawkins was included in that or not. I know the 8-inch and the 9.4-inch guns were changed, but I don't know about the 7.5s. Right, well, we already did about 3,000 damage in one fire from that one HE salvo. Okay, this is actually pretty decent now. Or at least on cruisers it's pretty decent. Our secondaries are opening up as well. Not that I really expect them to do much. Yeah, it's about normal, I guess you could say. I'm not too impressed with the high explosive here. Let's try Hawkins. And actually, let's switch to armor piercing because we might be able to get her... no, it doesn't look like we're going to get her broadside before she disappears. And I'm actually going to have to turn away here because all the battleships are coming this way. And I don't really want to deal with them. So we're going to switch to high explosive. The question is actually broadside now. Those are Britannia secondaries because of the angle. We also get heals. At the higher tiers, we get super heals on the British cruisers. There we go, there's one. Alright, so let's slow down before we use our smoke screen. I don't know how the ships are when I don't have speed buffs, but I can tell you that with speed buffs, I have to slow down before I can use my smokescreen because my ship usually outruns my smokescreen if I'm going full speed. Alright, so there is Hawkins. Let's see if we can get some armor piercing into her really quickly here. And yeah, that's a pretty good description of the armor of this ship. You get looked at, you get shot at, you get sunk. So, let's just show you what she can do against battleships with armor piercing. You just aim for the upper belt, you're hidden in a smoke screen, so you can't even be seen, and you just pick away 7,000 or so damage each salvo or so. I don't really like using high explosive, like I said, because it's not that good, but also because ships like Imperatriz Maria, they don't really have a lot of superstructure to set a fire anyway, so it'd be a waste of time. I do believe you can Citadel Congo as well, but she is kind of angling, so I don't expect any right now, but I'm still going to try. If I get it right under the rear turrets, possibly? No, still too much of an angle. Alright, let's just go to Britannia then. We have no specific target in mind, just trying to do damage against the flattest broadside possible. Look at that, 9,000 damage. The cruiser against a battleship. I actually almost have the same amount of health as the Britannia as well. That's funny. But yeah, looks out of the cruisers. It looks like our smokescreen is going to go away here in a moment, so let's move on. Maybe I can get a kill secure on this Congo real quick. Yep, we're out of our smokescreen. There we go. Nice. Might as well pop a heal. I still have 2 more. I don't think that they're going to be shooting at me or anyone for much longer. Let's see if we can work over this Maria. There goes one Britannia. That ship's going to go down, so I'm just going to switch to this one. Well, it doesn't look like I switched targets, but that's fine. And yeah, you just kind of stay at a range where you're not going to be shot at, even with secondaries, and you just slap battleships with armor piercing, and cruisers if they are dumb enough to give you a broadside. Destroyers, you are going to kind of struggle against because you don't have speed nor turret rotation really. Your high explosive will be okay against them, however, so you can feel free to use that in that kind of situation. Against carriers, you have no kind of fighter. You have limited AA capability. Your maneuverability is alright, but your speed means you're not gonna outrun anything. So yeah, you're just gonna be food for carriers, but every ship is food for carriers at this tier, honestly. And that was a really quick game, but let's see how we did anyways. 114,000 damage, 3 ships were sunk, 117 shell hits, 4 citadels, 3 fires, 1 module destroyed, 4 defended caps, and 10 secondary hits. We were able to do 16,000 damage in high explosive, 81,000 damage in armor piercing, fires did about 14,000, secondary battery even did a little bit at about 1,100, no torpedoes and nothing else. But yeah, that Hawkins, as you saw, we shot it pretty much one time with armor piercing, and it got 4 citadels and immediately got sunk. Let me see how big the citadel is. That's an absolutely massive citadel. You see how high that is above the water? That's just asking to be destroyed. So yeah, always be careful about this ship. You don't really have the armor to tank anything. I would expect destroyers to be able to citadel this ship, honestly. So not really a good start to the British cruiser line, but it does get better. When we go over county, that'll be a closer representation of what you want to do with the cruiser line here. You have better guns, you have torpedoes, you have even pretty okay secondaries in AA. You don't have a fighter, unfortunately. That is one thing that we get from Surrey and above, but the ship is still really good. So with that, I will wrap up today's video on Hawkins. Not the best ship. Exeter is a lot better if you already have her, and not the best intro to the British cruiser line, but it can still be pretty strong, especially against battleships. And even with that smokescreen, if you use that smokescreen, that'll always give you an advantage over the enemy team. So again, thank you for watching and have a good day.